Oh, what's up? Oren Ross back here with another edition of the Libertarian Lawyer. Here to talk shit about the media and politicians for your and my, really, entertainment. The first thing that I would like to talk about today is something from a few weeks ago. Well, really more like a couple months ago. There's an Iowa representative whose last name is Miller Meeks. She was elected. She beat a lady named Hart in an Iowa House race, and they had a recount. There was a recount because it was a really close race, and so with the recount, they said that Miss Miller Meeks, who happens to be a Republican, won this race by 6 votes. Now, I've been told over and over that this was the most secure election in the world, and we're not supposed to even question any of the results of the elections. So, that's still the case, right? Apparently not. Apparently not. If you're a Democrat, because the Democrats in the House are now disputing this. Ms. Hart, instead of adjudicating this through the Iowa court system, has decided that she's going to go straight to the House of Representatives, since the House of Representatives apparently has the power to determine who gets elected to the House of Representatives. That seems like a little bit of a conflict of interest to me, but what do I know? So anyway, Nancy Pelosi, this crazy 80-year-old lunatic vampire woman, she says that there were 22 votes that weren't counted that should have been counted, which would have made it go for Miss Hart and not for Miss Miller Meeks. The problem with that is that these votes that they say should have been counted, they weren't counted because there were errors on the ballot. And there are rules, as with every state, there are rules about what you have to put on an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot to have it be considered valid. If you have an error on there and that error negates the vote, then they don't count the vote. So this is just one more way that the Democrats show that they're absolute hypocrites. They say over and over that this was the most secure election. If you question anything about it, they'll ban you. They've banned they've banned Steven Crowder, basically, where YouTube has completely demonetized him. Twitter keeps banning him and giving no reasons as to why they're doing it. and really the issue here is that this election was certified by the state of Iowa. They determined that all the votes were counted properly, everything was done, and after that happens, we're supposed to stop questioning it, except this Democrat doesn't want to stop questioning it. And of course, if she's in there and this Republican lady is not, that means Nancy Pelosi has a slightly larger majority, which she really needs because they're probably going to lose this in 2022. They lost seats in the House this past election. So the Democrats are completely full of shit. And I don't really care anymore. I used to try to say some Democrats, no, fuck it. If you vote for the Democratic Party, the Democrat convention, the Democrat platform, you are complicit in all of this. You are a part of it. Because you might have a Democrat from your from your county, from your state, who you think is a good person. They're probably going to do everything right. Well, no, they're not, because even if they're a good person, they fall in line with the Democrat Party lockstep. Okay, that's what the Democrats do. They know how block voting works. They are all really tight. The Republican Party, everybody's kind of wishy-washy, and you always have those libertarian types like Rand Paul who are going to disagree even if the party wants them to agree, because Rand Paul doesn't care, because he has something called principles, which a lot of these other politicians do not have. They will do whatever it takes to stay in power. even if that means overturning an election or contributing to fraudulent elections. Democrats do this all the time. This is widely known. John F. Kennedy was elected because of ballot box stuffing in Illinois. They've done this over and over. They always do this with the ballot harvesting. You can see, like, there were ads this year, not this year, last year, 2020, saying that people would be paid if they voted for the Democrats. Like, this is illegal. Like, but it was all out in the open, and no one does anything about it. So it just continues. And if you say, hey, whoa, that shouldn't happen, they say, well, actually, you're a racist. There's no rules that apply to people who aren't white. All the rules apply to the white people, but the people who aren't white, they don't have any rules applied to them because white people have kept them down at some point in the past. Which leads me to the new voter restrictions in Georgia, which are not voter restrictions. It's literally just to make sure that people are who they say they are. And Joe Biden, I know he's at least partially illiterate. He's a moron to the nth degree, right? But this dude is on national TV saying that Georgia is limiting the vote to 5 p.m. on the day of the election. That is absolutely 100% not true. They've extended the time that you have to vote. It's always been 7 to 7 in Georgia. It's still 7 to 7, but now they've extended early voting and made sure that people can basically get in and vote at any point. So the Democrats, of course, claim that this is racism. Everything is racist. So if they claim something is racist, 99.9% of the time, it means this is going to hurt Democrats. Okay, that's all they care about. They obviously don't care about anybody actually getting hurt. Otherwise, they would straighten things out in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., in Portland. They don't really give a, they don't care, right? They just want to stay in power. So the problem with the Democrats is that they've set things up so that they always have to be fighting some boogeyman. So they started with the civil rights in the 60s, where you had actual things that you could march against and vote against and protest. And then we got out of that and things get progressively better. But if they say that things are getting progressively better, then there's no reason to elect someone who says we need to progress now, right? Because if things are pretty good, you stick with the status quo. You don't go with the person who has crazy ideas, who says let's completely destroy Western society, let's destroy the nuclear family, let's destroy everything that has been created by white people. So good luck, because that's pretty much everything that you have. Because we live in a Western society. Western society was created by people who are white. There are contributions from other people, but the vast majority of the basic creations that we have around us are from white people. So if you destroy Western society, what are we going to do? Are we going to go back to living in huts and stuff? Or are we just going to completely, let's just get rid of electricity, right? Ben Franklin was evil. Thomas Edison was evil. So no electricity, no light bulbs. Thomas Edison may have been evil. I don't really know. Seems like there's some question there as to whether he was actually a really good inventor or if he was just really good at stealing people's inventions. Either way, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. So let's say Edison was not a great guy. Let's say he was, in fact, racist. Okay? Does that mean we're going to get rid of electricity? No. Are we going to get rid of light bulbs? No. Are we going to get rid of the 180 other things that he's credited with creating? No. We're not going to do that. That's stupid. Even if someone was bad, you give them credit for what they did right and credit for what they did wrong. Well, I guess not credit for what they did wrong. Whatever the word should be there. Basically, what I'm saying is they want to completely destroy everything because they want to institute this communist ideal that they have. And if you think that that's a little hyperbolic, this is what they're all heading toward. So anyone who says they are progressive, what are they progressing toward? The answer is they're progressing toward socialism / communism. That's where this all ends up. They want more control of the economy by the government. Okay, if you take that all the way to its end, what do you get? You get communism, right? Government owns the means of production. They want everyone to be equal, all right? It's not enough now to have equality. They want equity. They want everybody to be on the same level, no matter what skills you have, no matter how hard you work, no matter how lazy you are. They want everybody to end up in the exact same place. That's called communism, okay? That's how it worked in Russia, and it didn't work at all, because when you have a system where there is no incentive to work, there is no incentive to do better, people will stop doing better, because even if they do better in a communist society, they don't actually do better. If you work harder, you don't get any more. So why would you work harder? You don't get anything for it unless you happen to be one of the people at the very top, and then you can be corrupt as shit and do whatever you want. Have all the vodka you want, have all the caviar you want. There's no shortages, but everybody else starves to death. That's what happens when you have a communist society, and that's what the Democrats are pushing, whether they know it or not. It doesn't really matter at this point. Did all the people in Germany know what they were pushing toward? Did they know that concentration camps were going to be the result of these things? Probably not. Maybe they figured it out at some point, but this is a gradual increase. They don't do everything overnight. They do it gradually so that you get accustomed to it, and it's not a shock to the system, because if they shock the system, then people might wake up and say, you shouldn't be doing this. So anyway, basically the entire Democrat Party is full of shit. They're completely corrupt. I can't name one Democrat who I think is halfway trustworthy. They're all intellectually dishonest. It doesn't matter what happens. They're going to just spout their view of how they think things happened. They're not going to actually address any facts. There is no logic or reason involved. That's why Joe Biden said we choose truth over facts, because their personal truth, whatever they believe, they think that's valid. Even if what they believe is completely illogical, it is not based on reason, it is not based on the facts, it doesn't matter, because that's their truth. They're full of shit. Anyway, one other thing that I wanted to talk about, like a couple weeks ago, but I didn't. Here's how racist these people are. Oh, I didn't even plug my microphone in. Okay. So I hope this is recording. So the City of Oakland has been decided that they're going to give people of color, families of color, whatever the fuck that means, $500 a month if they earn under $59,000 a year, with no rules on how they spend it. But they are offering poor white families nothing. So this is a race-based program put on by the City of Oakland to give $500 checks to people who are not white and to give people who are white nothing. This is funded through some private organization, but that doesn't matter, because the City of Oakland, the government, is the one doing the distributions. They are actively involved in a racist plot to take money and give it to people who are not white, and to make sure that it doesn't go to people who are white. That is the definition of racism, okay? They are saying that black people are better than white people, brown people are better than white people, and they need this money. So how is that not racist? Can anybody explain to me? My wife says, well, this, it's private organization. Okay, well, if these private philanthropists want to do this shit, they're free to do it. But once you get a government involved, this has to stop. If you want to do things privately, do whatever you want privately. Once you get a city or a county or a state or a country involved, we're on a whole other playing field now, because this is the government tacitly approving this organization and this program. It's completely racist. There are more poor white people in this country than there are poor black people or poor brown people. But no one cares about them because apparently all of these poor white people have white privilege. So they can basically do whatever they want, but for some reason they've chosen not to, which seems kind of strange to me, but what do I know? Last thing today, the Derek Chauvin trial with George Floyd. This is a classic example of overcharging by a DA who is more concerned with the political ramifications than they are with achieving justice in any way, shape, or form. And this, I think, is the problem with having DAs, district attorneys, being elected. They are subject to political whims. So people get charged for things they shouldn't be charged for. Like, who is the dude here? The super corrupt DA that Atlanta had for forever, Paul Howard. He charged the cops with the Rayshard Brooks shooting. He charged them with murder or some crime close to that. I'm not exactly sure what the charge was, but I know he charged them heavily for it. There's no way they're going to get convicted for that. There's just no way. But he's a black guy. He had a really tough election. He's trying to get votes, and it helps out. As far as they're concerned, it helps out if you do this. He lost that election so hard. It's funny how bad he got his ass beaten by the new lady, but she's basically probably the same person, This is what they all do. It's like everybody's different until they get into office, and then they just fit into the mold. Like everybody is Jell-O when they're trying to get elected, right? And then they get put into a mold. Once they get elected, they take on the shape of the previous person there. There's no real changes. Everybody just gets corrupt, especially in cities like Atlanta, where a lot of people tend to go to jail, and a lot of people should go to jail because they are absolutely corrupt. But this is what happens when you have voting areas like Atlanta, the city of Atlanta. So anyway, this trial, the Derek Chauvin trial, they completely overcharged this dude. There's no way that they're going to get him on any of these. They might get him on a manslaughter, but I really don't see how they can if the jury follows instructions, because the dude was using a method, a technique that is taught by the Minneapolis Police Department. He was trained to do that. They are trained to put their knee on the back of your neck so that you can keep breathing and they can hold you down. So if they put their knee on your back, they can compress your lungs, compress your diaphragm, and you can't breathe. But just a knee on the back of the neck, it's just enough pressure so that you can't roll over, but you can still breathe. And I was watching this video on a Louder with Crowder video, and George Floyd, his head was not pinned to the ground. The dude picks his head up off the ground and is like moving it around, and then he puts his head back down. You can't do that if a guy has his weight on your neck. You just can't. Nobody is that strong. The guy's weight wasn't on him. Like, he wasn't choking him. There was no bruising on George Floyd's neck. There was no bruising on the tissue once they took his skin off and looked at it. There was no indication that anything was done to his neck. There was no petechial hemorrhaging in his eyes, which is what happens if you run out of air. That's what happens, okay? Little vessels in your eyes start to pop. That's classic, okay? None of these things were there because this dude ingested a ton of drugs when the police came up on him because he didn't want to go to jail. Turns out it's probably not the best fucking idea to hide all of your fentanyl in your fucking stomach, right? But he did it, and he freaked out, and he ended up having a heart attack because he had all of these drugs in his system, and he already had heart disease. So that, combined with the fact that Derek Chauvin was taught to do this by his police department, and I'm pretty sure that police department is run by a black guy or black person, right? Why would this black person in charge institute something that is a completely racist policy? They probably wouldn't, right? It seems pretty obvious. But somehow every system is so racist that even if black people are running all of the systems are still racist. That's how you know they're full of shit. That's how you know they have some ulterior motive. Their motive in this case, and in most of these cases, is to destroy this society because they want to tear this down so that they can be the leaders of the next society. We're not going to let this happen. It's just not going to happen. And I just hope Joe Biden puts in place some stupid ass gun control so we have a reason to revolt against a government that is so clearly off the rails. There's just, all right. Anyway, there's no way Chauvin's going to be convicted for this. The DA overcharged him because if they had just charged him with like assault or something like that, even a manslaughter, there would have been riots, right? They would have burned Minneapolis down again. So they didn't want to do that. So they said, we'll charge him with murder. He's going to get off, and they'll say, well, it's not our fault. We charged him with murder. It's the fault of those people on the jury. The people on the jury, their lives are going to be fucked. They are not sequestered. People are going to find out who they are. It's going to be a real shit show. And this is just ripe for a mistrial. If I was Derek Chauvin's lawyer, if he was convicted of anything, I'm going to fucking say on appeal, this was fucked. The jury was completely tampered with by numerous people. And then one last thing for today. In the spirit of celebrating Joe Biden's massive $1.9 trillion spending plan on infrastructure, which is like maybe 10% infrastructure, it's largely just a giveaway to states that have completely fucked up their own economies, states that are completely insolvent, like California, like Illinois, like New York. It's just a giveaway from everybody else to those states because they don't know how to run their fucking country. They are bankrupt, and yet we're supposed to pay for all their things. Not only that, it's also a big giveaway to the labor unions because the Democrats have been losing labor union support ever since Donald Trump came on the scene. They want to try to get that back. And it's largely just a bunch of spending on these renewable energy plans that are destined for failure because we do not have the technology yet to institute renewable energy on any reasonable scale. We don't have the batteries to save the energy that we get from solar power yet. That's why there are blackouts in California, because once the sun goes down, they're fucked. They said, we're going to have this much from solar, so if the solar runs out, you're fucked. If the wind runs out, you're fucked. So everybody's fucked, and they're going to try to fuck us more, and we're going to destroy ourselves and pay ridiculous amounts for energy because some people want to feel better, and we're going to continue to let China and India pollute as much as they possibly can, and we're going to go along with this bullshit climate accord that just penalizes us, even though we are the ones, like the United States has been reducing emissions more than any other of these countries, right? But hey, let's rejoin, right? Because why would we not? It's not like we were already reducing emissions at a record rate. Oh, wait, we fucking were. In the spirit of this stupid ass spending bill by the completely senile, I'm not going to say that. This guy has never been worth a damn. He was never worth a damn. He will never be worth a damn. And now he is run out there by his family, by his handlers, whoever is in charge. They know this dude should not be in public. He should not be in any position of power whatsoever. He probably shouldn't even have a checkbook. Somebody needs to have power of attorney over him. But he's running our country. So this is from Thomas Jefferson. I, however, place economy among the first and most important Republican virtues, Republican small r, and public debt as the greatest of dangers to be feared. To preserve our independence, we must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. I am for a government rigorously frugal and simple. They're loading us with debt. We have no way to pay it off. It just increases. There's nothing we can do about it. At some point, they're going to take our checkbook away, because we can only continue doing this as long as the dollar is the currency for the world. At some point, people are going to realize that we're going down the tubes, and they're going to move to another form of currency, and we're all going to be fucked. So on that note, have a good day, weekend, whatever, and don't fucking vote for Democrats.